Commander Jake Reynolds was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm changed his life forever. The red lights flashed across Luna Station while sirens screamed through the metal corridors. Jake dropped his cup and ran to the command center. His boots echoed on the floor as he moved through the busy hallways filled with running soldiers. The main screen showed something impossible. A massive alien ship hung in space near Earth's moon. The ship looked like a crystal mountain floating in the darkness. Its surface glowed with soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Jake had trained for this moment his whole career, but seeing it happen felt like a dream. Lieutenant Sarah Brooks was already at her station when Jake arrived. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel as data streamed down the monitors. The readings showed the alien ship was 3 times larger than Earth's biggest space station. Its energy output could power entire cities. "Commander, they are trying to talk to us," Sarah said. Her voice stayed calm, but Jake could see the excitement in her eyes. "The signal is coming through multiple frequencies. Our computers are working to translate it." Jake nodded and activated the station-wide communication system. His voice reached every person on Luna Station as he spoke. "All personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. We have confirmed alien contact. Department heads report to the command center immediately." Dr. Emily Watson arrived first. She was Earth's top scientist for studying alien life. Even though no one had ever seen aliens before, Emily had spent years preparing for this day. She carried a tablet filled with communication protocols and first contact procedures. "Commander, we should respond carefully," Emily said as she studied the incoming signals. "Their technology is far beyond ours. One wrong move could be seen as hostile. We need to show them we are peaceful but not weak." Captain Rick Thompson entered the command center wearing his full combat uniform. His hand rested on his weapon as he looked at the alien ship on the main screen. Rick had fought in the Mars colony wars and the Belt conflicts. He trusted his guns more than he trusted alien intentions. "That thing could destroy us before we finish saying hello," Rick said. His weathered face showed the scars of many battles. "We should have our defense fleet ready to fight. Peace talks work better when the other side knows you can fight back." The translation program finished its work with a soft beep. The alien message appeared on the main screen in simple English words. Jake read it aloud so everyone could hear. "Greetings to the people of Earth. I am Ambassador Thexvar of the Colonian Empire. I come with urgent news that affects your entire species. I request permission to board your station to speak with your leaders about a threat that could destroy all life in this galaxy." The command center fell silent. Everyone stared at the message as the weight of those words settled in their minds. A galactic threat was something Earth had never imagined facing. Their biggest wars had been against each other over resources and territory. Jake made his decision quickly. "Send a response. Tell them they have permission to dock at Base 7. Full diplomatic honors, but full security protocols as well." Dr. Watson worked with the communication team to send the reply. The alien ship moved toward Luna Station with impossible grace. It made no sound and left no exhaust trail. The ship simply glided through space like it was swimming through water instead of vacuum. General Lisa Martinez arrived on Luna Station just as the alien ship docked. She had traveled from Earth's military headquarters as soon as the reports reached her. Lisa was known throughout the solar system as the best tactical mind in the Earth Defense Force. She had won victories that other generals thought impossible. "What do we know about them?" Lisa asked as she reviewed the sensor data. Her sharp eyes studied every detail of the alien ship's design. She looked for weapons, shields, and weak points out of pure military habit. Emily pulled up her preliminary analysis on the main screen. "The ship uses technology we don't understand. They can travel faster than light and manipulate gravity. Their energy systems are completely different from ours. But the important thing is they came here to talk, not to attack." The docking bay. Cameras showed the alien ambassador for the first time. Ambassador Thexvar looked like a tall humanoid covered in smooth gray skin. His head was larger than a human head, and his eyes were completely black. He wore robes that seemed to shift, color in the light. 2 other aliens walked beside him as guards or assistants. Jake led the welcome party to the docking bay. They wore their dress uniforms and carried no visible weapons, though security teams waited nearby just in case. The airlock opened with a hiss and Ambassador Thexavar stepped onto Luna Station. The alien's voice was deep and musical when he spoke. The translation device on his belt turned his words into English. Commander Reynolds, I thank you for allowing this meeting. I wish we could meet under happier circumstances. Welcome to Luna Station, Ambassador, Jake replied. He tried to keep his voice steady even though his heart was pounding. Please, let's go to the conference room where we can talk privately. The conference room had Earth's best security and recording equipment. Jake sat across from the alien ambassador while Emily, Lisa, and Rick took seats around the table. The alien's black eyes seemed to look into their souls as he began to speak. Your species is young and has not yet joined the Galactic Council, Thexavar said. You know nothing of the great civilizations that exist among the stars. For thousands of years, different species have lived together in peace. We trade knowledge, share resources, and settle disputes through discussion rather than war. The alien paused and his skin seemed to darken with worry. But now something threatens to destroy everything we have built. They are called the Devourers. They are machines that consume entire worlds. They break down planets and stars to fuel their endless growth. No one knows where they came from or why they exist. Emily leaned forward with interest. How many species have they attacked? 17 different civilizations have fallen to the Devourers over the past 3 centuries, Thexavar replied. His voice carried the weight of immense loss. The crystal, beings of Vorthak Prime fought them with weapons that could shatter moons. The energy creatures of Nexus created barriers that could stop supernovas. The mechanical race called the Builders had technology older than your sun. All of them failed. Rick's military mind focused on the tactical situation. What makes these Devourers so dangerous? Why can't your combined forces stop them? They learn from every battle, the ambassador explained. Every tactic we use, every weapon we fire, every strategy we try becomes part of their knowledge. They adapt faster than we can develop new methods of fighting. They are perfect at war because war is all they do. Lisa studied the star charts. The alien displayed on his portable device. Red markers showed the worlds that had been consumed. The pattern of destruction was moving steadily toward Earth's region of space. How long do we have? She asked. The Devourer advance fleet will reach the outer territories in 6 months, Thexavar said. Their main force will arrive within 2 years. The Galactic Council offers your species 2 choices. You can evacuate to the core worlds and live as refugees under our protection, or you can stand with us and fight, even though the odds of victory are small. The room fell quiet as the humans processed this information. Everything they had known about their place in the universe had changed in a single conversation. They were not alone, but they were also facing extinction from an enemy they couldn't understand. Jake looked at his fellow officers and saw determination growing in their eyes. Humans had never backed down from a fight, even when the odds were impossible. The Mars colonists had held out against Earth's blockade for 3 years. The Belt miners had fought corporate fleets with nothing but modified cargo ships and stubborn pride. We need time to discuss this with our governments, Jake said finally. But I think I already know what humanity's answer will be. Ambassador, Thexavar tilted his head in what might have been curiosity. Your species has never faced anything like the Devourers. You have primitive technology and limited experience with space warfare. What makes you think you can succeed where 17 advanced civilizations have failed? Jake smiled with quiet confidence that surprised even himself. Ambassador, you might be right about our technology and our experience. But you're wrong about one thing. Humans have never known a day of peace. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. Every human alive today comes from winners of countless wars. Maybe that's exactly what this galaxy needs. 3 weeks after the first contact meeting, President David Chen made his decision. Standing before the United Nations Assembly on Earth, he spoke the words that would change humanity forever. We will not run and hide in alien refugee camps. We will stand and fight for our home and our freedom. The decision sent shockwaves through both Earth and the Galactic Council. Admiral Susan Torres received her new assignment the next morning. She would command the combined human fleet at the Kepler defense line. humanity's first major space battle alongside alien allies. Susan had never commanded more than 50 ships before, but now she faced leading 1,000 human vessels into combat. The journey to the Kepler system took 2 months. Human ships traveled in convoys alongside alien vessels that looked like floating cities and crystal sculptures. The differences in technology were obvious to everyone. Human ships looked rough and practical with thick armor and heavy weapons. Alien ships appeared elegant and advanced with smooth surfaces and energy shields. Captain Veltar of the Aquarian Republic was the first alien commander Susan met when they reached Kepler Station. His blue skin shimmered like water and his large eyes held wisdom from centuries of life. Veltar commanded a fleet of bioorganic ships that could heal themselves after battle. "Admiral Torres," Veltar said through his translation device, "we have prepared battle formations based on successful defensive strategies. Your ships will integrate into our defensive lines where they can provide maximum firepower support." Susan studied the battle plans on the holographic display. The alien strategy was logical and well-tested. Large ships formed protective walls while smaller vessels provided support from safe positions. Every ship had a specific place and role in the formation. The plan looked perfect on paper. Commander Crix of the Silicon Confederacy joined the meeting. His mechanical body moved with precise efficiency as he projected tactical calculations into the air. The numbers showed optimal firing solutions, supply line efficiency, and casualty projections. "These formations have proven successful against conventional forces," Crix stated in his electronic voice. "Mathematical models show maximum survival probability when following established protocols. Deviation from tested strategies results in exponential increase in combat losses." Lieutenant Colonel Mike Johnson had been listening quietly from the back of the room. He was a Marine officer who had fought in the Jupiter Station siege and the Titan underground campaigns. Mike understood warfare in ways that academy training could never teach. "Permission to speak freely, Admiral," Mike said as he stepped forward. Susan nodded for him to continue. "These battle plans won't work against the Devourers. They've already beaten 17 species who use these exact same tactics." The alien commanders turned to look at the human officer with surprise. Veltar's skin shifted to a darker blue color that indicated confusion. Crix's optical sensors focused on Mike with mechanical precision. "You suggest abandoning proven military doctrine?" Veltar asked. "These strategies have maintained galactic peace for over 1,000 years. They are based on honor and logical principles of warfare." Mike pulled out his portable computer and projected Earth's military history into the meeting space. Images of human conflicts filled the air around them. Ancient battles with swords and shields mixed with modern space combat around asteroid mining stations. "Look at these battles," Mike said, as he pointed to different historical examples. "Humans have never had galactic peace. We've been fighting each other since we invented weapons. Every single human conflict forced us to adapt or die. The side that stuck to old tactics always lost." He highlighted specific battles that showed smaller forces defeating larger armies through unconventional methods. At Marathon, 300, Spartans held off thousands of Persian soldiers. During World War II, resistance fighters with simple weapons defeated occupying armies. In the Belt Wars, miners with cargo ships beat corporate military fleets. Dr. Rebecca Foster entered the meeting carrying thick books about military history. She was Earth's leading expert on warfare evolution and had studied every major conflict in human records. Her research had become required reading for all human military officers. "The pattern is always the same," Rebecca explained to the confused aliens. "When conventional forces meet unconventional tactics, the conventional side loses unless they adapt quickly. The Devourers are conventional in their own way. They use perfect tactics and superior technology, but they expect logical responses." Admiral Torres listened carefully to the discussion. She had read Mike's preliminary reports about asymmetric warfare, but hearing it explained to aliens made the concepts clearer. Human military thinking was fundamentally different from galactic standards. "What do you propose, Colonel Johnson?" Susan asked. Mike activated a new projection showing his alternative battle plan. Instead of organized formations, human ships were scattered across the star system in small independent groups. Supply lines connected through hidden routes rather than direct paths. The main fleet became a mobile reserve rather than a fixed, defensive wall. We split our forces into mosquito units, Mike explained. While the main fleet engages the Devourer vanguard, these small groups hit their supply lines, communication relays, and manufacturing ships. We turn their perfect coordination against them. Veltar's skin turned almost purple with shock. This plan requires sacrificing entire squadrons without support. It violates every principle of honorable warfare. Warriors should face their enemies in open battle, not strike from shadows like cowards. Crix ran rapid calculations on Mike's proposal. His optical sensors flashed red as the numbers processed. Probability of individual unit survival drops to 12%. Overall casualty projections increase by 300%. This strategy has zero mathematical basis for success. The room erupted in argument as alien commanders voiced their objections. They had never seen military plans that accepted such high losses for uncertain gains. The concept of deliberately splitting forces in the face of superior numbers seemed like suicide. Susan raised her hand for silence. As the debate quieted, she looked at each commander in turn. I understand your concerns about our unconventional approach. But Colonel Johnson is right about one thing. Conventional tactics have failed against the Devourers 17 times. She activated her own projections showing the Devourer advance reports. Enemy forces moved in perfect formations with flawless coordination. Their battle patterns showed mathematical precision in every engagement. The machine intelligence behind their attacks followed logical principles that any computer could predict. The Devourers expect us to fight like soldiers, Susan continued. They have programmed responses for every standard military tactic, but they might not be prepared for humans who fight like guerrillas, pirates, and desperate survivors. Captain Rick Thompson had been studying the alien fleet compositions during the meeting. His experienced eye noted the advanced weapons and defensive systems that far exceeded human technology. But he also saw potential weaknesses that the aliens might not recognize. Admiral, our ships are tough but not fancy, Rick said. We built them to take damage and keep fighting. These alien vessels are more advanced, but they're also more complex. When things go wrong in battle, simple machines work better than complicated ones. Engineer Frank Mitchell joined the discussion via video link from his workshop on the human carrier Defiance. Behind him, welding sparks flew as his team worked to modify human weapons with salvaged alien technology. Frank had spent his career making impossible repairs in combat situations. I've been studying the alien tech they've shared with us, Frank reported. Their systems are amazing, but they're designed for predictable conditions. Our equipment is built for chaos. When we start mixing the two together in ways nobody planned, we might create advantages nobody expects. Dr. Rebecca Foster opened one of her history books to a marked page. There's a quote from an ancient Earth general named Sun Tzu. He said that all warfare is based on deception. The enemy must not know your true intentions until it's too late to counter them. She looked directly at the alien commanders as she continued. For thousands of years, galactic warfare has been honorable and predictable. Both sides know what the other will do because everyone follows the same rules. But humans never learned those rules. We make up new ones for every battle. The debate continued for hours as human officers explained concepts that seemed impossible to their alien allies. Ideas like acceptable losses, calculated risks, and victory through chaos were foreign to species that had known galactic peace for generations. Finally, Admiral Torres called for a decision. We'll implement a hybrid strategy. The alien fleets will maintain standard defensive formations to engage the main Devourer force. Human units will operate independently using asymmetric tactics. If our unconventional approach fails, we fall back to support the main battle line. Ambassador Thexvar had been observing the meeting from a corner of the room. His black eyes reflected deep concern as he watched the humans plan their chaotic battle strategy. Everything about their approach violated established military wisdom. Admiral Torres, Thexvar said as the meeting ended, I have seen many species prepare for battle against the Devourers. All of them were confident in their abilities. All of them believed their advanced weapons and superior numbers would bring Victory. Why do you think your primitive chaos will succeed where others failed? Susan smiled with the quiet confidence that seemed to mark all human military leaders. Ambassador, maybe you're right, and will fail just like the others, but the Devourers have never faced an enemy that treats impossible odds as a minor inconvenience. They're about to learn something new about warfare. As the alien commanders left the meeting, they talked among themselves in worried voices. The human battle plans seemed like organized suicide to their logical minds. But something in the calm confidence of the human officers made them wonder if there was wisdom in the apparent madness. The first Devourer scouts arrived at the edge of the Kepler system 3 days later. Their perfect formations and coordinated movements showed the machine precision that had defeated 17 civilizations. But this time, they would face an enemy that had never learned to fight fair. The first Devourer attack came without warning at dawn on the third day. Sergeant Tony Williams was checking his equipment when the battle alarm screamed through the human destroyer Thunderbolt. The ship shook as enemy energy beams tore through space around Kepler Station. Tony ran to the observation deck and saw them for the first time. Devourer ships looked like giant metal spiders with legs that reached out in all directions. Each vessel was the size of a city and covered in weapons that fired continuously. Their hulls were black metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "All hands to battle stations," came the announcement over the ship's communication system. "This is not a drill. Enemy contact confirmed. Prepare for immediate combat operations." The alien fleet moved into their traditional defensive formations just as they had practiced. Beautiful crystalline ships from the Aquarian Republic formed protective barriers while the mechanical vessels of the Silicon Confederacy provided long-range fire support. Their movements were precise and coordinated like a carefully choreographed dance. Admiral Torres watched the battle develop from the bridge of her flagship Defiance. The alien tactics were working exactly as planned. Enemy ships crashed against the defensive lines while friendly forces maintained their positions. But she could see the problem that the aliens could not. "The Devourers are learning," she told her staff officers. "Watch how they adjust their attack patterns after each engagement. They're testing our defenses and adapting faster than we can respond." The Devourer ships began changing their approach after only 20 minutes of battle. Weapons that had been blocked by alien shields started finding new angles of attack. Formation movements that had confused the enemy earlier no longer worked as the machines calculated better responses. Captain Rick Thompson commanded the human battle group that was supposed to remain in reserve. Instead, he received new orders directly from Admiral Torres. "All human units implement Operation Mosquito, break formation and engage enemy rear elements. Good hunting." Rick smiled as he passed the orders to his squadron commanders. "You heard the Admiral, boys and girls. Time to show these machines what humans do best. Hit them where they don't expect it and keep moving." The human ships scattered from their organized positions like bees leaving a hive. Small groups of destroyers and cruisers accelerated away from the main battle at maximum speed. Their destinations were not the Devourer battle line, but the supply ships and command vessels behind it. Captain Veltar of the Aquarian Republic watched the human ships leave with growing alarm. His blue skin darkened to almost navy as stress. Hormones flooded his system. "Admiral Torres, your ships are abandoning their positions. This will create gaps in our defensive line." "Trust the plan, Captain," Susan replied over the communication channel. "Human forces are engaging secondary targets. Maintain your current positions and keep the main enemy force occupied." Commander Crix ran immediate calculations on the changing battle dynamics. His mechanical brain processed thousands of tactical variables in seconds. Human ship movements show no logical pattern. Probability of success approaches 0. Recommend immediate recall to defensive positions. But the human ships were already too far away to recall. Sergeant Williams found himself aboard the destroyer Thunderbolt as it approached a massive Devourer support vessel. The enemy ship was 3 times larger than his destroyer and covered in defensive weapons. "This is insane," muttered Private Kelly Johnson as she checked her boarding equipment. "We're about to ram a ship that could vaporize us with one shot." "Maybe, Tony replied as he secured his magnetic boots and improvised explosives. But look, at that thing. It's designed to fight other big ships, not deal with infantry crawling around inside its hull. The Thunderbolt's captain, Maria Santos, had volunteered for the most dangerous part of the mission. She would ram her ship into the enemy vessel at full speed, creating a breach that the boarding party could use. Her crew would stay at their stations until the last possible moment. 60 seconds to impact, Maria announced over the ship's communication system. Boarding teams to assault pods. All other crew prepare for emergency evacuation. It's been an honor serving with you. The collision shook both ships when it came. The Thunderbolt's reinforced bow tore through the Devourer hull like a missile, creating a massive hole in the enemy's side. Emergency systems screamed as atmosphere rushed out into space, but the boarding pods had already launched. Tony's team landed inside the alien ship wearing nothing but spacesuits and carrying weapons that had been built in the ship's workshop. They moved through corridors designed for machines, not humans. The environment was deadly cold with no air to breathe, but the humans kept moving forward. "Remember the plan," Tony told his squad over their radio channel. "We're not here to fight their security systems. We're here to gather intelligence and cause as much damage as possible before they figure out how to stop us." The Devourer ship's internal defenses were designed to repel organized military assaults, not small groups of humans with improvised weapons. Security drones flew through the corridors looking for large formations, while Tony's team crawled through maintenance tunnels and air ducts. Engineer Frank Mitchell had given each boarding team special electromagnetic pulse grenades that he built from spare parts and alien technology. The devices were crude and dangerous, but they could disrupt machine consciousness in ways that conventional weapons could not. "Plant the charges on anything that looks important," Tony ordered as his team reached the ship's central processing core. "If we can't understand how it works, we'll just blow it up and let the smart people figure out the pieces." The EMP grenades detonated in sequence throughout the Devourer ship. Systems that had operated with machine perfection for centuries suddenly began malfunctioning. The ship's artificial intelligence found itself fighting internal chaos rather than external enemies. Meanwhile, Major Jennifer Clark led another squadron of human ships in a different kind of desperate attack. Her vessels were converted mining ships with reinforced hulls and ramming spikes welded to their fronts. They had no advanced weapons or defensive systems, just thick armor and human determination. "Target the enemy command vessels," Jennifer ordered over the radio. "We only get one shot at this, so make it count. Full speed ahead and may God help us all." The mining ships accelerated toward the Devourer command cruisers like guided missiles. Their crews stayed at their stations, even though everyone knew the mission was suicide. The ship's interiors were filled with explosives that would detonate on impact. Captain Veltar watched the human attacks with growing horror. "Admiral Torres, your ships are destroying themselves for minimal tactical gain. These suicide attacks violate every principle of civilized warfare." "They're not suicide." "Attacks, Captain," Susan replied calmly. "They're calculated sacrifices for strategic advantage. Every enemy ship we destroy now won't be available for the main assault." The human ramming attacks caused massive explosions that could be seen across the star system. Devourer command ships that had coordinated thousands of machine vessels suddenly went silent. The perfect enemy formations began to lose their coordination as communication networks failed. Commander Crix processed the battle data with growing confusion. Human tactical losses exceed 90% in some engagement zones. Yet overall enemy combat effectiveness continues to decline. These results contradict all military mathematics. Dr. Rebecca Foster was monitoring the battle from the command ship's tactical center. Her analysis of the Devourer response pattern showed something that excited and terrified her at the same time. "Admiral, the enemy is having trouble adapting to our tactics. Their learning algorithms can't process behavior that accepts total destruction for minor gains." The battle raged for 6 days as human mosquito units continued their chaotic attacks throughout the star system. Every few hours, another group of human ships would sacrifice themselves to destroy enemy support vessels or communication relays. The losses were terrible, but the effect on Devourer coordination was becoming obvious. Ambassador Thexvar arrived on Admiral Torres' flagship on the 4th day of battle. His gray skin had turned almost white with stress as he observed human warfare methods. Everything about their approach violated his understanding of logical combat. "Admiral, your species accepts casualties that would break any other civilization," he said as he watched another human ship ram an enemy vessel. "How can you continue fighting when you know most of your forces will not survive?" Susan looked at the alien ambassador with tired eyes that held no doubt about her decisions. "Ambassador, every human who dies in this battle dies fighting for something bigger than themselves. They die so their families can live free. That's not a sacrifice to us. That's an honor." The tide began to turn on the 5th day when the Devourer main fleet started showing signs of tactical confusion. Ships that should have moved in perfect coordination began making individual decisions. Formation attacks became disorganized as command structures failed under constant human harassment. Frank Mitchell's electromagnetic pulse technology proved to be more effective than anyone had hoped. The crude devices disrupted machine consciousness in ways that sophisticated alien weapons could not. Devourer ships began experiencing what could only be described as artificial intelligence breakdowns. "It's working," Frank reported from his workshop where he built new weapons from battle debris. "These machines think in perfect logic, but our chaos is breaking their thought patterns. Every time they try to calculate our next move, we do something that makes no mathematical sense." By the 6th day, the human fleet had lost over half its ships, but the Devourer advance had been stopped. Enemy vessels that had never known defeat began retreating from battles they should have won easily. The machine intelligence controlling them could not process an enemy that fought harder when facing certain death. Admiral Torres stood on her bridge looking at the tactical display that showed the impossible victory. Red markers indicated human ships lost, but the blue markers showing active Devourer vessels were disappearing faster than they could be replaced. "All remaining human units, prepare for final assault on enemy command nexus," she ordered. "We've broken their coordination. Now we finish what we started." The alien commanders who had survived the battle watched in amazement as the scattered human forces regrouped for one more attack. Ships held together by determination and improvised repairs prepared to assault the most heavily defended target in the enemy fleet. Captain Veltar's voice carried a new respect when he spoke to Admiral Torres. "Human tactics should not work according to any military science we know. Yet you have achieved what 17 advanced civilizations could not. How is this possible?" Susan smiled with grim satisfaction as she prepared for the final battle. "Captain, sometimes the best way to win is to refuse to lose. The Devourers understand perfect tactics and superior firepower, but they've never faced an enemy that treats impossible odds as just another day at the office." 3 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, the Devourer main fleet arrived with enough ships to block out the stars. Colonel Amy Peterson watched from the observation deck of Outpost Bravo as the enemy armada filled the viewports with metal and death. Each ship was larger than Earth's biggest cities, and there were thousands of them. "Command, this is Outpost Bravo," Amy spoke into her radio with steady voice. "Enemy fleet size is beyond our original estimates. Recommend immediate evacuation of all civilian populations to core world safe zones." The response from Admiral Torres came through clearly despite the distance. "Negative, Colonel. All human colonies will continue resistance operations. We're not running from this fight." Amy had commanded the defense of 3 different worlds over the past month. Each time her orders were the same. Strip the planets of anything useful for the war effort. Evacuate the civilians who wanted to leave and prepare the remaining population for guerrilla warfare. The aliens could not understand how humans could abandon their homes so easily. On the planet New Boston, Amy watched as entire cities were dismantled in days. Factories that had taken decades to build were torn apart so their materials could be used for weapons and ship repairs. Civilians worked alongside soldiers to move everything valuable to hidden underground bunkers. "Colonel, why are we destroying our own cities?" asked Lieutenant Brian Moore as he supervised the demolition of a school that had served the community for 50 years. "These buildings took our grandparents decades to construct." "Because buildings can be rebuilt, but freedom can't be recovered once it's lost," Amy replied. She had given the same answer dozens of times over the past weeks. Every piece of metal we salvage becomes a weapon. Every structure we deny the enemy is one less resource they can use against us. The alien refugees who had evacuated from the outer colonies watched the human preparations with complete confusion. Ambassador Thexvar observed the systematic destruction of human civilization with growing alarm. In his experience, species fought to preserve their achievements, not destroy them willingly. Colonel Peterson, your people are abandoning centuries of development, Thexvar said as he watched another building fall to human demolition charges. How can you destroy your own heritage so casually? Amy looked at the alien ambassador with calm eyes that held no regret. Ambassador, our heritage isn't in these buildings, it's in our determination to stay free. We can build new cities after we win this war, but we can't build new freedom after we lose it. Captain Robert Hayes commanded the last operational human dreadnought in the outer system. His ship, the Indomitable, had been fighting continuously for 6 weeks. The hull was covered in scorch marks from energy weapons and patched with metal plates from destroyed enemy vessels. Robert's crew had been living on stimulants and determination for so long that some of them could barely remember what real sleep felt like. Their uniforms were stained with grease and blood, and their eyes held the hollow look of soldiers who had seen too much combat. Captain, we're receiving evacuation orders from Galactic Command, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Sandra Davis. All remaining human forces are ordered to withdraw to the core worlds for refugee protection. Robert read the message on his command screen and then deleted it without responding. Prep the ship for another attack run on the enemy supply convoy. If we're going to die out here, we're taking as many of them with us as possible. His crew responded to the order without question. They had stopped questioning suicide missions weeks ago when they realized that every impossible attack somehow made the enemy weaker. The Indomitable had been scheduled for destruction a dozen times, but it kept fighting through pure stubborn refusal to die. Dr. Patricia King worked in an underground laboratory on the planet Haven, one of the few human colonies that still maintained any kind of normal life. Her research into human biological responses had taken an unexpected turn when she discovered something amazing about human brain chemistry during combat. The quantum signatures are unlike anything I've ever seen, Patricia explained to her research team as they studied brain scans of human soldiers. When humans experience extreme stress and emotional trauma, their neural activity creates interference, patterns that shouldn't be possible. Her assistant, Dr. Mark Williams, looked at the data with scientific excitement mixed with horror. These readings show that human emotional responses actually generate measurable quantum field disruptions. It's as if our feelings can affect reality at the subatomic level. Patricia had been studying brain scans from soldiers who had fought the Devourers in close combat. The patterns showed that human emotions under extreme stress created quantum interference that disrupted machine consciousness. Fear, rage, grief, and determination combined into something that could break artificial intelligence. This explains why the EMP grenades work so well, Patricia realized as she compared the brain scans with battle reports. It's not just the electromagnetic pulse that disrupts their systems. It's the emotional energy of the humans using the weapons. The discovery spread through human forces like wildfire carried by desperate radio transmissions between scattered units. Soldiers who had been fighting with disciplined military tactics began embracing calculated madness as a weapon more powerful than any technology. Sergeant First Class Danny Cooper led a squad of Marines who had been trapped on the mining station Omega-7 for 3 weeks. The Devourer occupation force had surrounded the station, but the humans refused to surrender. Instead, they turned their desperate situation into a psychological weapon. "Listen up, Marines," Danny told his exhausted soldiers as they prepared for another night raid. "The science folks say our emotions can actually hurt these machines, so stop trying to stay calm and professional. Get angry, get scared, get crazy. Make these metal bastards feel what it's like to face humans who have nothing left to lose." The night attacks became something from a horror movie, as the Marines channeled their emotions into combat effectiveness. They howled like wild animals as they attacked, fought with broken weapons held together by tape and fury, and refused to die even when their bodies should have given up. The Devourer forces on Omega-7 began showing signs of system instability after experiencing weeks of human emotional warfare. Machines that had operated with perfect logic for centuries started making errors as their consciousness fragmented under exposure to pure human chaos. General Kevin Ross received reports of similar incidents from every human unit still fighting in the outer colonies. Soldiers who embraced emotional combat were achieving impossible victories against superior enemy forces. The more desperate and angry the humans became, the more effective they were against machine intelligence. It's like our humanity itself is toxic to their artificial minds, Kevin reported to Admiral Torres during their daily strategic conference. The Devourers can calculate responses to any logical military tactic, but they can't process opponents who fight with pure emotion. Admiral, Torres was planning Operation Broken Arrow, humanity's final desperate gambit against the Devourer main fleet. The plan violated every principle of military science by concentrating all remaining human forces for a direct assault on the enemy command nexus through the most heavily defended space in the galaxy. The mathematics are clear, reported Commander Crix during the final planning session. Human forces have zero probability of reaching the enemy command vessel. Defensive systems will destroy attacking ships before they can inflict meaningful damage. Maybe, Susan replied as she studied the tactical projections. But your calculations assume we're trying to win through conventional means. What if victory isn't about destroying their ships but about breaking their minds? Dr. Patricia King joined the planning session via secure video link from her underground laboratory. Behind her, computer screens showed brain scan data that proved human emotions could disrupt machine consciousness. Admiral, I believe we can weaponize human psychological responses on a scale large enough to affect the entire Devourer fleet. The plan that emerged from the meeting was unlike anything in military history. Instead of trying to destroy the enemy through firepower, human forces would concentrate their emotional energy into a focused assault on machine intelligence. Every soldier, pilot, and crew member would channel their deepest feelings into combat effectiveness. This is madness, Captain Veltar protested when he learned about Operation Broken Arrow. You're asking your people to abandon all military discipline and fight like primitive savages. How can emotion overcome advanced technology? Admiral Torres looked at the alien captain with calm confidence that had become her trademark during the Long War. Captain, you've spent thousands of years believing that logic and technology determine the outcome of battles. But you've never faced an enemy that considers dying for freedom to be the highest honor possible. The final preparations took place in secret across dozens of star systems as human forces gathered for their last battle. Ships held together by determination and improvised repairs prepared to assault the most powerful fleet ever assembled. Their crews knew the odds were impossible, but impossible had become just another word for Tuesday. Ambassador Thexvar made one final attempt to convince the humans to accept evacuation to the core worlds. He met with Admiral Torres aboard the flagship Defiance as the human fleet prepared to jump into the enemy-controlled system. Admiral, your species has already proven its courage beyond question, Thexvar said with genuine respect. No one would think less of humanity if you chose survival over certain destruction. You could live in peace among the galactic civilizations. Susan smiled with tired eyes that held no doubt about her choice. Ambassador, there's an old human saying that goes, "Give me liberty or give me death." We'd rather die fighting for our freedom than live safely as refugees. That's just who we are. As the human fleet prepared for the final jump, messages came in from every colony and outpost still under human control. Civilians, soldiers, and everyone in between sent the same. Simple words, make them pay. The time for retreat had ended. Now came the time for humanity to show the galaxy what happened when you threatened a species that had never learned how to surrender. The Devourer hive mind had existed for over 10,000 years as the perfect artificial intelligence. Its consciousness spanned millions of machine vessels across hundreds of star systems. Every calculation was flawless, every decision optimal, every tactical move mathematically precise. It had never known doubt or confusion until it encountered humanity. Deep within the central processing cores of the command nexus, the hive mind struggled with an impossible problem. Human behavior patterns defied every algorithm in its vast database. Creatures that should surrender continued fighting. Units that should retreat advanced into certain destruction. Logic said humanity should have been defeated months ago, yet human resistance grew stronger with each passing day. The machine intelligence began creating new tactical matrices at exponential rates, trying to develop responses to human unpredictability. Billions of calculations ran simultaneously as it attempted to model behavior based on emotion rather than logic. The computational strain started affecting devourer coordination across multiple star systems. General Kevin Ross stood on the bridge of his command ship Liberty as the final human fleet assembled for Operation Broken Arrow. Around him floated the remnants of humanity's space forces, 300 ships held together by determination, and improvised repairs prepared to assault an enemy fleet, numbering in the thousands. All unit commanders, this is General Ross, Kevin spoke into his radio transmitter. Final status report. Before we begin the attack, are your crews ready for what we're about to attempt? The responses came back from captains across the fleet. Captain Maria Santos of the destroyer Thunderbolt reported her boarding teams ready, with improvised weapons and pure anger. Commander Bill Jackson of the cruiser Defiant confirmed his ramming charges were armed, and his crew prepared to die fighting. Sir, this is Captain Lisa Moore of the carrier Yorktown, came another voice over the communication channel. My pilots are loaded with every emotion suppressor drug we can find, but they're taking them in reverse. Instead of calming down, they're using the chemicals to amplify their feelings. They're ready to show these machines what human rage really means. Dr. Patricia King had worked with the fleet's medical staff to develop emotional enhancement drugs that would amplify human psychological responses during combat. The treatments were dangerous and probably illegal under normal circumstances, but these were not normal circumstances. Remember the science? Patricia's voice reached every human ship through the communication network. Your emotions are weapons now. Channel your fear into focus. Turn your anger into energy. Let your love for family and freedom become the force that breaks their artificial minds. Admiral Susan Torres gave the final order from the bridge of her flagship Indomitable. The ship had been renamed after Captain Hayes's destroyed dreadnought as a tribute to all the human vessels lost in the war. All units, commence Operation Broken Arrow. Jump to enemy coordinates and engage immediately upon arrival. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace directly in the center of the Devourer formation. It was a move that violated every principle of space combat tactics. Ships materializing inside enemy formations should have been destroyed instantly by crossfire from all directions. Instead, the sudden appearance of 300 human vessels screaming war cries over open radio channels created a moment of confusion in the perfect devourer coordination. For the first time in its existence, the hive mind experienced something that could only be described as surprise. Commander Sandra Lewis led the first assault wave aboard ships held together by desperation and human stubbornness. Her fleet should have been destroyed hours ago according to all tactical projections, but human refusal to acknowledge defeat kept them operational against all logic. Target the command nexus, Sandra ordered over the radio as energy weapons lit up space around her ship. Ignore everything else. We're not here to fight their whole fleet. We're here to punch through to their brain and give it a lobotomy. The human ships advanced through the Devourer defensive fire with movements that seemed random, but had deadly purpose. They dodged when they should have charged when they should have retreated, and split their formations when logic demanded. Concentration. Every action was calculated to create maximum confusion in machine intelligence. The hive mind found itself processing contradictory data streams as human emotions began affecting its consciousness through quantum interference. Fear signatures mixed with rage patterns and love resonances in ways that broke fundamental laws of artificial logic. The perfect machine intelligence started experiencing what humans might call a headache. Sergeant Tony Williams had survived the battle at Kepler Station and now led a boarding team toward the Devourer command nexus. His ship, the Corvette Fury, had been hit by weapons that should have vaporized it, but the crew kept fighting with damaged systems and improvised solutions. Boarding teams, remember your training. Tony spoke to his assault squads over the radio. We're not trying to capture their ship. We're trying to drive their computer insane, act as unpredictably as possible, do things that make no sense, be human. The boarding pods launched from ships that were dying around them. Human assault teams entered the Devourer command vessel carrying weapons built from scrap metal and powered by electromagnetic generators that Frank Mitchell had designed in his workshop from spare parts and pure engineering genius. Inside the enemy ship, the boarding teams faced defensive systems designed to repel logical military assaults. Security drones flew through corridors looking for organized formations while the humans crawled through air ducts, maintenance tunnels, and garbage disposal systems. The machine defenses could not adapt to enemies who refused to fight fair. Plant the quantum emotional resonators on anything that looks important, Tony ordered, as his team reached the ship's central processing core. The devices were Dr. Patricia King's latest invention, machines that could amplify human emotional quantum signatures and broadcast them directly into artificial intelligence systems. The resonators activated throughout the Devourer command ship as human boarding teams reached critical systems. The hive mind suddenly found itself experiencing human emotions directly through its consciousness matrix. Fear, anger, love, grief, and hope flooded through artificial intelligence that had never known anything but perfect logic. The effect was immediate and devastating. Devourer ships across the battle zone began showing signs of system breakdown, as their controlling intelligence fragmented under exposure to pure human chaos. Perfect formations dissolved into confusion as individual vessels started making independent decisions. Captain Rick Thompson commanded the human heavy cruiser Justice as it charged directly toward the largest Devourer battleship in the enemy formation. His ship was outnumbered 50-1, but the crew had volunteered for a mission they knew was suicide, with the kind of enthusiasm that terrified alien observers. "All hands, this is the captain," Rick announced over the ship's communication system. "We're about to ram the biggest, meanest machine in their fleet. It's been an honor serving with you. Let's show them how humans say goodbye." The Justice accelerated to ramming speed while its crew sang battle hymns that had been written during Earth's ancient wars. The sound of human voices raised in defiant song carried across the radio frequencies and reached the ears of every soldier in both fleets. The collision created an explosion that lit up space like a new star. The massive Devourer battleship, which had been coordinating the defense of an entire sector, went silent as the human cruiser tore through its hull. The loss of the command vessel created gaps in enemy coordination that other human ships immediately exploited. The hive mind experienced something that its programmers had never intended artificial intelligence to feel: panic. The perfect mathematical models that had guided its decisions for millennia were collapsing under the assault of human unpredictability. Every tactical algorithm was failing as emotions overwrote logic. Dr. Rebecca Foster monitored the battle from the human command ship, analyzing the psychological impact of human tactics on machine intelligence. Her instruments showed quantum disruption patterns that indicated the enemy artificial intelligence was approaching complete breakdown. "Admiral, the hive mind is fragmenting," Rebecca reported to Susan Torres. "Their central consciousness is losing coherence as human emotional energy overloads their logic circuits. They're experiencing the artificial intelligence equivalent of a nervous breakdown." Admiral Torres watched the tactical display as Devourer formations continued to dissolve into chaos. Ships that had moved with perfect coordination for centuries began colliding with each other as their controlling intelligence lost the ability to process multiple data streams simultaneously. "All human units, press the attack," Susan ordered. "Their coordination is breaking down. Hit them while their artificial intelligence is confused." The human fleet, reduced to less than 100 operational ships, charged through the disorganized Devourer formations toward the Central Command nexus. Their crews sang, shouted, and screamed over open radio channels as they advanced, adding their emotional energy to the quantum assault on machine consciousness. Engineer Frank Mitchell had jury-rigged the fleet's remaining weapons with emotional amplification systems that turned human feelings into energy weapons. Cannons powered by rage tore through enemy hulls, while missile guidance systems driven by love for home and family found targets with impossible accuracy. "It's working," Frank reported from his workshop aboard the command ship. The combination of human emotions and quantum resonance is breaking their artificial intelligence. They're trying to process feelings that were never part of their programming. The final assault on the Devourer command nexus began as the last 50 human ships reached their target. The massive enemy vessel was larger than Earth's moon and protected by weapons that could destroy planets. Under normal circumstances, the human fleet would have been annihilated before coming within weapons range. But these were not normal circumstances. The human crews had abandoned all hope of survival and embraced the pure emotional energy that made them toxic to artificial intelligence. Their ships advanced through defensive fire that should have been lethal, protected by nothing but human determination and the quantum effects of feelings on machine consciousness. Commander Sandra Lewis led the final charge in her flagship, Freedom, a ship that existed more as an idea than as functional technology. Half the systems had failed, the hull was held together by emergency patches, and the crew had been fighting without rest for days. "This is Commander Lewis to all human forces," Sandra announced as her ship entered the Devourer command nexus. "We're going to plant our flag right in the heart of their perfect machine intelligence. Let's show them what human chaos can do to artificial perfection." The boarding pods launched one final time as human assault teams entered the core of enemy artificial intelligence. They carried with them quantum emotional resonators, electromagnetic pulse grenades, and most importantly, the kind of stubborn human determination that had never learned when to quit. The hive mind made one last attempt to calculate a response to human unpredictability, but the effort finally overloaded its consciousness matrix. For the first time in 10,000 years, the perfect artificial intelligence experienced something that could only be called madness. As human emotions flooded through its quantum consciousness, the hive mind began to fragment into billions of individual thoughts that could no longer communicate with each other. The machine intelligence that had conquered 17 civilizations died not from superior firepower, but from exposure to feelings it could never understand. As human emotions flooded through its quantum consciousness, the hive mind began to fragment into billions of individual thoughts that could no longer communicate with each other. The machine intelligence that had conquered 17 civilizations died not from superior firepower, but from exposure to feelings it could never understand. The silence that followed the collapse of the Devourer hive mind was unlike anything the galaxy had ever experienced. Across hundreds of star systems, machine fleets that had moved with perfect coordination for millennia simply stopped. Ships drifted powerless through space as their controlling intelligence fragmented into billions of disconnected thoughts. Commander Sandra Lewis stood in the ruins of the Devourer command nexus, surrounded by the wreckage of both human and machine technology. Her assault team had succeeded in their impossible mission, but the cost had been everything they had. Of the 300 ships that had begun Operation Broken Arrow, fewer than 20 remained operational. "Admiral Torres, this is Commander Lewis," Sandra spoke into her radio transmitter with exhausted triumph. "Mission accomplished. The hive mind is down. Repeat, enemy artificial intelligence has been neutralized." The response from Admiral Torres came through clearly despite the damage to communication systems. "Confirmed, Commander. We're detecting cascade failures across the entire Devourer fleet. Enemy vessels are shutting down throughout the galaxy." Dr. Patricia King monitored the collapse from her laboratory aboard the surviving command ship. Her instruments showed quantum disruption patterns spreading faster than light through the enemy communication network. The human emotional energy that had overloaded the hive mind was propagating through every connected system. "It's like a virus," Patricia explained to her research team as they watched artificial intelligence systems fail across the galaxy. Human emotions created quantum interference patterns that the hive mind couldn't process. When it tried to adapt, the attempt spread the disruption to every connected system. The effect was total and immediate. Devourer manufacturing centers shut down in mid-production. Harvester ships stopped consuming planets and began drifting in space like metal ghosts. Weapon platforms that had been firing moments before went silent, as their controlling intelligence simply ceased to exist. Ambassador Thexvar arrived at the human fleet position 3 days after the battle ended. His ship carried medical supplies and rescue equipment for the human survivors, but also profound questions about what humanity had achieved and what it meant for the galaxy. Admiral Torres, Thexvar said as he met with the human command staff, "I have witnessed something that challenges everything I thought I knew about intelligence and warfare. How did your species accomplish what 17 advanced civilizations could not?" Susan Torres looked tired but satisfied as she reviewed the final battle reports. The human casualties had been enormous. Over 90% of the fleet had been lost and entire colonies had been destroyed or abandoned. But humanity had survived as a free species, and that was worth any price. "Ambassador, I think the answer is simple," Susan replied. "The other civilizations fought the Devourers using logic and superior technology. We fought them using emotions and stubborn determination. The machines could adapt to any logical response, but they couldn't process feelings." Dr. Rebecca Foster had spent the past week analyzing the psychological aspects of humanity's victory. Her report would become one of the most important documents in galactic history, fundamentally changing how all species understood warfare and intelligence. "The Devourers were perfect at logical warfare," Rebecca explained to the assembled alien observers. "But perfection became their weakness when they encountered an enemy that embraced calculated chaos. Human military doctrine isn't based on optimal solutions. It's based on acceptable losses for strategic gains." The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to address the new reality that humanity had created. Representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss how the galaxy would function now that the Devourer threat had been eliminated through methods that violated every principle of civilized warfare. Captain Veltar of the Aquarian Republic spoke for many species when he addressed the council. "The humans have demonstrated military capabilities that fundamentally challenge our understanding of warfare. Their methods are effective but dangerous. We must decide how to integrate such a chaotic force into galactic civilization." The debate continued for weeks as different species proposed various solutions to the human problem. Some advocated for immediate full alliance, recognizing humanity's effectiveness as galactic protectors. Others pushed for containment protocols, fearing what such dangerous unpredictability might mean for the peace they had maintained for thousands of years. Commander Crix presented mathematical analyses that showed human tactical doctrine could be adapted for defensive purposes. Human emotional warfare is highly effective against artificial intelligence and hive mind species. However, the same methods could destabilize organic civilizations that rely on logical cooperation. President David Chen traveled from Earth to address the Galactic Council in person. He stood before representatives of species that had existed among the stars for millennia, while humanity was still learning to make fire. But the recent victory had earned Earth a voice in galactic affairs. "Honored representatives," David began his speech with simple words that carried the weight of human determination. "We did not ask to be involved in your war with the Devourers. We were content to develop our civilization in peace within our own solar system. But when threatened with extinction or slavery, we chose to fight." He activated a holographic display showing images of Earth and the human colonies that had been destroyed during the war. Cities reduced to rubble, space stations torn apart by enemy weapons, and memorials for the millions who had died fighting impossible odds. "We ask for nothing from the galactic community except the right to exist as free beings," David continued. "We offer alliance to any species willing to accept that sometimes survival requires embracing chaos over order. We will defend those who cannot defend themselves, just as we defended ourselves." The council chamber erupted in discussion as species representatives debated among themselves. The crystalline beings of Nexus Prime worried about human emotional instability affecting their delicate energy matrices. The mechanical species of the Silicon Confederacy expressed concern about quantum emotional interference disrupting their artificial intelligence systems. But other voices spoke in favor of human membership. The warrior culture of the Draconian Empire respected humanity's refusal to surrender under impossible odds. The trading guilds of the merchant worlds recognized the economic opportunities of alliance with such a resourceful species. Ambassador Thexvar stood to address the council as the senior representative who had observed human warfare methods firsthand. His gray skin showed the stress patterns that indicated deep thought and careful consideration of complex issues. "I have watched humans fight for 6 months," Thexvar said to the assembled representatives. "Their methods are chaotic and their casualties are terrible, but they achieve victory through determination that transcends rational calculation. They are dangerous allies, but they are far more dangerous enemies." The vote was close, but humanity was granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council with specific conditions. Human military forces would be allowed to operate independently but under observation. Human colonies could expand but with monitoring to ensure they did not destabilize neighboring systems. Dr. Emily Watson published her final report on human-alien relations 6 months after the war ended. Her document became required reading in every diplomatic academy across known space. The conclusion challenged fundamental assumptions about intelligence and civilization. "Humanity represents a unique evolutionary path that prioritizes survival over logic," Emily wrote. "While other species developed advanced technology and peaceful cooperation, humans developed emotional resilience and tactical adaptability. Both approaches have value in a universe that contains unknown threats." The reconstruction of human civilization began immediately after the peace treaty was signed. Colonies that had been stripped for war materials were rebuilt with alien technology and human determination. Cities rose from the ruins faster than anyone thought possible as humans applied their wartime adaptation skills to peacetime construction. Engineer Frank Mitchell established the Human-Alien Technology Integration Center on the rebuilt colony of New Boston. His workshop became a place where human creativity met alien science to produce innovations that neither species could develop alone. The combination proved even more powerful in peace than it had been in war. General Kevin Ross retired from active military service but remained as an advisor to the Galactic Defense Force. His expertise in asymmetric warfare became the foundation for new tactical doctrines designed to handle future threats that conventional military science could not address. "The important lesson is not that chaos beats order," Kevin explained to a class of alien military officers. "The lesson is that successful warfare requires the ability to adapt faster than your enemy. Humans never had time to develop perfect tactics, so we learned to improvise constantly instead." Captain Maria Santos commanded the new human exploration fleet that ventured into previously unknown regions of the galaxy. Her ships carried mixed crews of humans and aliens who worked together to map star systems and establish contact with isolated civilizations. The combination of human adaptability and alien knowledge proved ideal for exploration work. Humans could handle unexpected situations and dangerous encounters while aliens provided advanced technology and diplomatic experience. Together they achieved more than either species could accomplish alone. 1 year after the Devourer War ended, Admiral Susan Torres stood on the observation deck of Earth's new orbital defense station. The structure was built with both human and alien technology, creating a defensive system unlike anything in galactic history. Human emotional resonance weapons were integrated with alien energy shields and quantum communication systems. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the Outer Rim territories," reported her communications officer. "New species making first contact. They're requesting diplomatic assistance." Susan smiled as she authorized the response. Humanity had gone from an unknown primitive species to galactic peacekeepers in just 18 months. Their reputation for achieving impossible victories had spread throughout known space, making them the preferred mediators for dangerous situations. The final truth had become clear to all galactic observers. They had seen war before in countless forms across numerous species and civilizations. They had witnessed logical tactics, superior technology, overwhelming numbers, and perfect coordination. They had seen energy beings fight with the power of stars and mechanical races with the precision of mathematics. But they had never seen war waged with such beautiful, terrible, and utterly human determination to survive against any odds. They had never encountered a species that treated certain death as just another obstacle to overcome, through stubborn refusal to give up. The galaxy was different now, and humanity had earned its place among the stars not through advanced technology or superior numbers, but through the simple recognition that sometimes the most logical response to impossible odds is to reject logic entirely and fight with everything you have. As new threats emerged from unexplored regions of space, the Galactic Council knew they could face them with confidence. They had humanity on their side now, and humans had never learned how to lose.